Hello and welcome viewers, I'm Pia and you're watching America 360 on NewsX World, and here are the headlines. Both chambers of the US Congress have now approved a bill requiring the Justice Department to release its files on financier Jeffrey Epstein. The House passed the measure overwhelmingly with a 427-1 vote, and President Trump has indicated that he will sign it once it reaches his desk. In a White House meeting, President Trump has defended Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, stating that he knew nothing about the 2018 murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This statement contradicts a 2021 U.S. intel report which concluded that the Saudi Crown Prince had approved the operation. President Donald Trump has announced that the U.S. will designate Saudi Arabia as a major non-NATO ally, unveiling the move during a White House dinner honoring Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and celebrating, in his words, the largest arms purchase in history worth $142 billion. A new virus variant and slow vaccination rates may lead to a severe flu season in the U.S. Health experts are now monitoring the mutated subclade case strain, which has now caused near early surges in the UK, Canada and Japan. According to a CDC report, while flu activity in the US is still low, it is increasing rapidly. Donald Trump has stated that leaders from every major country will join a Gaza board of peace. The UN, remember, approved a US-backed plan to end the conflict, authorize an international force and oversee reconstruction. US President Donald Trump has stated that the United States and Iran will probably end up making a deal. Trump offered no timeline but suggested that both sides may eventually return to the negotiating table amid tensions over Iran's nuclear program. Britain's Defense Minister John Healey has accused a Russian intelligence ship, the Yantar, of using lasers against British pilots near UK waters. Healey has issued a direct warning to Putin, stating that the UK is prepared to respond if the ship moves further south. A Russian missile strike on Ukraine's western city of Ternopil has killed at least 25 people, including 2 children, making it the deadliest attack in weeks. The attacks come as Ukrainian President Zelensky was scheduled to host peace talks in Turkey later in the day. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus, what's happening in the US as far as the Epstein files are concerned. We're now learning that both chambers of the U.S. Congress have approved a measure requiring the Justice Department to release its files on the late financier. The House of Representatives passed the bill overwhelmingly in a 427-1 vote, while the Senate indicated it would approve the measure once it formally receives it. President Donald Trump has stated that he will sign the bill into law. The files amassed during criminal investigations include victim and witness interviews and material seized from Epstein's properties. Survivors of Epstein's sexual assaults have now testified at the Capitol in support of the release, citing years of quote-unquote institutional betrayal. Trump had previously opposed the disclosure but reversed his position, urging Republicans to support the measure. House Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republican leaders who had earlier opposed the release voted in favor following the president's shift. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has stated that the Senate expects to pass the bill and send it to Trump for his signature shortly. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Matthew Wadham. He's an American journalist joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us. Donald Trump's reaction has been very interesting, from being opposed to making a U-turn, to publicly even shutting down reporters who are questioning him on issues. Now he's put out a very lengthy tweet stating that regardless of the outcome, there are a number of issues that the Trump administration has in fact delivered on, that he promised during the polls, whether it is regarding the immigration, whether it is regarding women's sporting issues as well, whether it's regarding the tariffs, whether it's regarding bringing jobs. Why are we seeing this sort of flip-flop rhetoric? Because we do know that one of the key bold promises that Donald Trump had made, that his vociferous supporters, including high-profile faces such as Elon Musk, had repeatedly brought up, were these files?
I don't know for certain why Donald Trump suddenly embraced the release of the Epstein files. Excuse me, but I suspected he saw which way the wind was blowing, so to speak, and he saw that Congress was heading in the direction of forcing the government to divulge the so-called Epstein files. And we're still not even certain what's in the Epstein files, but Trump did himself a disservice by campaigning in 2024 on releasing these files, and then he did an about-face once he came into office, once his second presidency began, and he started to say they shouldn't be released, and then he started to browbeat people for insisting that he honor his campaign promise. So a lot of the problems that President Trump is having related to the Epstein files are of his own making. Again, I think he just saw which way things were going, and he decided to get ahead of the problem and reverse himself and support the release of the files. He claims that there's nothing damaging on him in there, and from what we've seen so far, because Congress released one of the congressional committees released a whole bunch of Epstein documents recently. He was not close to Epstein, or at least not for very long, because Epstein is talking about how he doesn't like him. And how, so it's clear that the two were not close. So I'm not sure what's going to be in there, but it's definitely going to be interesting.
Indeed, we are yet to see what exactly will be revealed, but I also want to understand, could we then see the Democrats trying to capitalize on this changing rhetoric ahead of the midterms?
Well, definitely. They're accusing President Trump of flip-flopping, and in that respect, they're correct. He has flip-flopped on the issue. That doesn't mean he's guilty. Maybe it means he's getting bad public relations advice. They're going to use it against him. They continue to promote baseless conspiracy theories that he was part of some sex trafficking, sexual slavery operation. And, there's no evidence at all to support that, but they're going to keep saying that because they hate Donald Trump and they've lied about him before, and why should they stop now? It's paid dividends for them.
Indeed, but we've also seen Trump sort of raise the issue that Bill Clinton and his ties to Epstein should also be looked into. So do you think there's a window there which Republicans can corner the Democrats on?
Definitely. Again, we don't know what's going to be in the information that's released, but we do know that Bill Clinton flew to Jeffrey Epstein's island many times. It's already been documented from from flight logs, and there could be a lot of Democrat and Republican insiders who are implicated in this thing, though. Again, I can't look into a crystal ball. I don't know what they're going to find, but it could open up a huge new can of worms for Washington, and by pushing for this release, Democrats may be causing problems down the road for themselves. But we'll have to wait and see what's actually in these files.
Absolutely. So I request you to stay on with us. We're tracking more news as far as these files itself are concerned. We're now learning that Harvard University has stated that it will open a new investigation into former Treasury Secretary as well as Harvard professor Larry Summers. He was also a former Harvard president, following the release of documents showing an unusually close relationship with late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The probe will examine correspondence between Summers and Epstein, including hundreds of messages on women, politics, and Harvard-related matters, as well as other Harvard affiliates implicated in the files. Harvard spokesperson Jonathan Swain has confirmed that the review aims to evaluate appropriate actions based on the information that is released. Summers, as I mentioned, was a former Harvard president. He stated that he will step back from all public commitments amid scrutiny. Harvard's investigation will cover both current and former affiliates, including Summers' wife and nearly a dozen others. This is information according to the university's own newspaper, the Harvard Crimson. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Matthew Wadham. It's become quite serious for Harvard as well. One of its professors is now under scrutiny. We've also seen one of its former professors, very noted American lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, who has also been under scrutiny for quite a while now. How seriously does the university take this, especially since it reflects on its reputation, and how crucial is it for a transparent investigation by the university to sort of reinforce confidence in its student body?
Well, it appears that Harvard University takes the matter of Larry Summers' involvement with Jeffrey Epstein very seriously, and they are opening an investigation into his activities. And Larry Summers hasn't been helping himself recently. He said that the whole incident, the Epstein affair, makes him deeply ashamed. And he resigned from the board of OpenAI recently, and he said that he's going to step back from public affairs and is he's basically going to withdraw from public life for the time being. I guess that's maybe so that he can formulate a defense or whatever. He doesn't want to be in the public eye because there's all these embarrassing revelations about him. And I'm not sure what the emails released, the Epstein emails about Larry Summers prove. He was asking him for relationship or romantic or dating advice. And I'm not sure what else is in there and if it's necessarily incriminating, but, the fact that he's involved makes people suspicious of him, even if, what he did is not actually nefarious. So anyway, Harvard does appear to take these allegations very seriously, and we'll try to get to the bottom of it. Whether they succeed is anyone's guess.
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay put with us as we're tracking further updates, this time regarding the immigration crackdown that is taking place. We're now learning that President Trump's immigration crackdown is expanding across the U.S., reaching more states from Minnesota to North Carolina, with Louisiana possibly next. In the past 3 days, over 200 people have been arrested in ICE raids in Charlotte in North Carolina. While the focus remains on the city, enforcement actions are now spreading throughout the state, with New Orleans now expected to be a target very soon. Gregory Bovino, Trump's Border Patrol chief, is scheduled to visit New Orleans early in December. According to reports, the city could be part of the federal crackdown. It's not just, in fact, New Orleans. There was a report that had come out from the Associated Press that Mississippi is also being targeted. There's a 2-month operation called Swamp Sweep, which aims to arrest about 5,000 illegal migrants in the United States of America. This upcoming operation represents one of the largest regional immigration enforcement actions under Donald Trump. As I mentioned, Gregory Bovino, the Border Patrol commander, is reported to be leading the new effort. In Chicago, of course, he was earlier rebuked by a federal judge for misrepresenting threats by protesters. His involvement in the plan, of course, indicates that it is a major enforcement priority for the Trump administration. Joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Matthew Wadham. Donald Trump seems to be expanding, not just in fact doubling down, but also expanding the scope, the reach of the immigration crackdown now to Louisiana, to Mississippi. Operation Swamp Sweep is what is the current name that has been given. According to reports, it's scheduled to begin sometime in early December. The time period that has been allocated for this is about 2 months. It's of course signals an expansion of this crackdown into key southern states, which are of course Republican aligned. What else, in your assessment, does the Trump administration seem to be signaling through these particular raids and the expansion that is taking place?
I think the Trump administration is signaling here that it's serious about its crackdown on illegal aliens and in its determination to deport illegal aliens from the United States wherever they may be, including in southern states like Louisiana, where they announced they're going to send, I think, another 250 federal law enforcement officials into Louisiana to nab would-be deportees. So, you know, this is not really new. It's just this is one prong of it now. They're going to expand this operation into Louisiana. It's been taking place in other places throughout the United States, in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you know, in Chicago and Los Angeles and in other places. And now it's going to happen in Louisiana, and they want to ICE wants to carry out its law enforcement mandate there.
I also wanted to understand from you, because we are receiving reports that federal agents are expected to arrive ahead of Thanksgiving to set up logistics, with the operation fully launching in December. We do know that is the festive season in the United States. Could we then expect certain media outlets to provide a color to these raids that are taking place on their expected lines?
To provide a color? You mean to provide commentary on what's going on?
Yes, especially with the festive season.
Well, I think that the media has been very, mainstream media has been very aggressive in covering immigration enforcement in the second Trump administration. So I would be shocked if they did not provide, you know, granular, microscopic coverage of everything that's going on, because, you know, every time there's a major immigration raid, it's becoming national news in the United States. So I fully expect they will continue to closely cover these law enforcement events.
All right, with that, Mr. Wadham, I'd like to thank you for taking out time, of course, sharing your analysis, providing perspective on what's taking place in these very, very crucial issues in the United States of America. On that note, viewers, we're tracking further updates. So we're now learning that in a meeting at the White House, US President Donald Trump has defended Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, insisting that he knew nothing about the 2018 murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Trump's comments contradict a U.S. intelligence report from 2021, which concluded that the Crown Prince had approved the operation that led to Khashoggi's death at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in Turkey. While the Crown Prince called Khashoggi's death a huge mistake, he denied any involvement. The murder, of course, shocked the world. It sparked a diplomatic crisis between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, and Trump's comments have come in despite international condemnation and a UN investigation linking high-level Saudi officials, including the Crown Prince, to the killing. The case, of course, remains controversial, with critics accusing the Saudi government of obstructing any meaningful accountability. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Raymond Vickery, International Affairs expert, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. We do remember what took place in 2018 at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Then in 2021, a report was released by the United States, an intelligence report that concluded that the Crown Prince had approved the operation. A journalist today raised the question in the White House while the press briefing was taking place, the joint press briefing between Donald Trump and Mohammed bin Salman. And what was interesting was Donald Trump's reaction. The reporter had identified themselves as someone from a mainstream news channel, and Trump outrightly called the reporter a fake news peddler. What do you make of Trump's reaction? Of course, he was put in a spot, but was that reaction really justified?
Well, thanks very much for having me. You know, in order to build peace and prosperity, to wage it, you must wage it like you wage a war. You have to have a strategy. You have to have partners, and you have to have values. The reaction of President Trump to bringing the Crown Prince into the Oval Office shows really that President Trump has jettisoned each of these fundamentals to waging peace and prosperity in favor of a very transactional approach of what's in it for me immediately in regard to the transaction. The denial really of any responsibility by the prince, of course, is not credible in face of the determination of the security agencies, and President Trump's brushing it off and saying that there is no responsibility shows that the whole underpinning of democratic values, values which entail the rule of law, have been jettisoned in favor of the approach of transaction. Even more distressing, of course, are the myriad deals, financial deals that his company, his family is doing with Saudi Arabian companies and even the agencies of the government itself. $2 billion to his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. And of course, this has to be seen as an influence on the public policy towards Saudi Arabia, perhaps as much as any national security interest. So it's a very, very distressing development, but it is of one with the whole Trump administration's approach to international affairs. And one can only hope that other great democracies like India, in Western Europe, Japan, South Korea will not simply become more cynical about the United States and its president, but will adhere to values and try to build peace and prosperity by having strategies, partners, and underlying approaches that show that democracy is still a factor in international affairs for nations who are ruled by people rather than by kings or dictators.
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us. Speaking of the deals itself, Donald Trump and his administration has announced plans to sell F-35 stealth fighter jets to Saudi Arabia. The sale is part of a larger security package that would strengthen Saudi Arabia's military capabilities in the Middle East. The deal was originally linked to normalizing relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. However, U.S. President Donald Trump indicated that the jet sale will proceed independently without any immediate agreement on relations with Israel. Now, if the deal is completed, Saudi Arabia would become the first Arab nation to receive fifth-generation American fighter jets. Now, the sale still requires U.S. government's review and congressional approval, and according to experts, it could potentially shift regional military balance towards Saudi Arabia. Previously, the UAE, Saudi Arabia's neighbor, agreed to buy F-35 fighter jets and normalize relations with Israel, but that deal, of course, fell through during former U.S. President Joe Biden's administration over concerns about China and operational restrictions. It is important to note that Saudi Arabia remains the largest buyer of American weapons in the Middle East with this $142 billion deal. The country is also very strategically keeping future normalization with Israel separate from the jet purchase. Meanwhile, Israel has, of course, expressed concerns over the sale. Former Israeli military officials continue to warn that allowing Saudi Arabia to acquire F-35s could impact security dynamics in the region. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Raymond Vickery. Speaking of the delicate geopolitical balance of power in the Middle East, how is this likely to impact Israel? Because up until now, Israel has been the only country to receive the F-35 fighter jets. We've seen them being operated in the 12-day war between Israel and Iran. Their efficacy over there was witnessed as well.
Well, it seems to me that it underlines the lack of strategy and a coalition approach to trying to wage peace in the Middle East. And what happens with the F-35 deal is basically a transaction. President Trump believes that if he can secure billions of dollars for F-35s, that somehow he has won in a transaction, and that adds to his stature and his greatness. That's absurd, of course. You can't look at this in a vacuum. Saudi Arabia has recently signed a deal with Pakistan. How does that fit in with U.S. interest in building peace, particularly in view of the strong relationship between the two largest democracies in the world, the U.S. And India? How does this sale fit with the idea of bringing peace by dealing with Israel in regard to Gaza? There is a discontinuity in all of these. The only constant is that President Trump feels that he is treated as royalty by the Saudi Arabians, that the Saudi Arabian government promotes his family economic interest, and that it's sort of a one king to another king approach to international affairs, which should have gone out certainly in the 20th century, after we saw what happens when you have this approach in terms of leading to international hostilities and war. So it's a very short-sighted approach. It's one which does not augur well. And along with this designation of a major non-NATO status to Saudi Arabia, how does that fit in with any strategy? It is not clear at all. So once again, this is showing a transactional approach in international affairs as opposed to a relationship and cooperative approach among partners, which is really at variance with what the United States has been doing for the last 80 years.
Indeed, sir, requesting you to, of course, stay on, because you've, of course, pointed out the incongruence as part of this particular deal. The Saudi Park angle as well, the sort of a defense deal we've seen these two countries inked, the question on Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords, and of course the very obvious sort of deal maker projection that Donald Trump seems to be making time and again. There is another aspect, Iran. Do you think the Trump administration has considered this when going ahead with its deal with Saudi Arabia to sort of use it as, an element to counterbalance against Iran?
Well, I assume that he believes that he will have support from Saudi Arabia with Iran because they have been adversaries for some time. But it is not clear at all that that is the case. The prince brought with him a letter from Iran. The transactional approach which the administration has taken encourages the Saudi Arabians to also take just a transactional approach. And so if the United States looks at this as what's in it for me immediately, you can rest assured that the Saudis are doing the same thing with Iran. So here again, it takes a strategy and it takes a coalition partnership. It can't be just a one-off transaction with Saudi, which is going to accomplish anything in regard to Iran. It has to include other partners in Europe, Israel, across the board in order to really make an impact. So once again, this is a very short-sighted justification for a transactional approach which benefits the president and his family immediately, but is in the longer run really not in the interest of the United States of America and its traditional leadership role as a leader of the free world.
Indeed, sir. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time, of course, putting all of that into perspective for our viewers. On that note, we're tracking some information coming in from Texas. The American Civil Liberties Union of Texas has hailed a federal judge's order as a win for religious freedom after Judge Orlando L. Garcia issued a preliminary injunction requiring certain Texas public school districts to remove Ten Commandments displays. The order comes after a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of a Texas state law mandating public schools to display the Ten Commandments, a requirement that has triggered ongoing legal battles. In the latest victory in a series of legal challenges to laws requiring public schools to display these commandments, Arkansas and Louisiana have similar laws, and legal challenges to these measures have also produced court rulings favorable to the ACLU. Now, the Texas law is signed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott. It was signed back in June. It's being contested by families who claim that it violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. We're shifting our focus to a grim report now released by the World Health Organization. A new WHO report reveals that nearly a third of all women globally have experienced intimate partner or sexual violence, with 840 million women affected at some point in their lives. WHO Chief Tedros has called the lack of progress in combating this widespread issue a global injustice, stating that 263 million of these women have suffered sexual violence. Despite efforts, the persistence of gender-based violence remains a serious challenge worldwide, underscoring the need for stronger action and support systems to protect women from abuse. Listen in.
A new report from WHO estimates that 840 million women have faced violence at least once in their lifetime, including 263 million who have suffered sexual violence. These numbers have changed little in 20 years.
The results highlight a tragic reality for women and girls worldwide, as I say, in almost essentially every community. Almost 1 in 3 women globally have suffered intimate partner violence, sexual violence, from a non-partner or both at least once in their lives. Just think of that figure, 1 in 3 women. The impacts of violence go further than the women, affecting the health and well-being of their children, their families, their communities, and of course, costing millions in the economy.
Well, viewers, due to paucity of time, it's a wrap on America 360. We will continue tracking these updates very, very closely. But on that note, we're dipping into a quick short break.
In the midst of death, life persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists.